Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 114, brought to you by MMObomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, as always, magicman, and, well, I guess as always, effective a few weeks ago, I think. So, as always, I think I should save that line for a few more episodes down the line. Also here with me, as he always is, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, but I would do even better if, you know, in celebration of you being pretty close to getting rid of the porn stash, you tweeted the picture of you in your outfit and your costume.
Yes.
Give me a line. Give me a line from your production.
Let's see, what's a good line? So I'm talking to it's Lost in Yonkers, so if you're not familiar with it, Neil Simon, look it up. Play Uncle Louie, who's affiliated with the mob, and I'm talking.
I couldn't tell you were
right.
Just by looking at you. Yeah.
I'm talking to a 15-year-old boy who has just stood up to me. And I say, that was thrilling. That was beautiful. I had tears in my eyes, I swear to God. You got bigger balls than I thought, Jay. You got a couple of steel basketballs down there. So, yeah, that's...
Excellent.
There it is. Yeah, so this show today, totally not about Lost in Yonkers, although you are right. One more show after this with the porn stash, and then it will be gone.
It's not like gone. It's more like...
Yeah, it'll be deceased.
But little Jay there, if he smells off to you one more time, he'll be sleeping with the fishes.
Sleeping with the fishes, playing with the audio to kind of level everybody out here. A couple of people pointed out, you know, there's some spikes on my sound, and so I think we got it all fixed. I brought myself down, so we should be good. If not, you know.
If not, I'll bring you down even further.
Right. So let's get over to the news. Alrighty, first up, this is kind of big for this game. For this game, you know, I don't know how many people are in this game anymore. It must be doing well, you know, at least to the point of bringing an expansion out. But TERA, that sounded like all one word.
That's kind of the intent, I'm sure. I'm sure that's not a coincidence.
TERA Rising, TERA Online, the exiled realm of Arborea, whatever the hell you want to call it, getting an expansion. I'm going to show you guys the trailer right now. This game came out a while ago, 2012, May of 2012, and went free-to-play less than a year later, March 2013. I remember hosting the free-to-play cast episode when this guy went free-to-play, or at least talking about it. New expansion coming out. We don't have a date, but maybe by the end of this year. I mean, it's already in Korea, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they pretty much guaranteed that it would be by the end of the year. So it only gives them, 2 months. So
damn, everybody's just got expansions right now. Everybody.
We say that every year. That's how it always is, because people do that stuff.
Gametober.
Gametober. Well, it's not. They're not out yet. It's gonna be like Game Ember.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because we've got November or December. I guess they could hit that one. But yeah, so it was talked about on the North American / European and MMOs servers, like back in July, as far as it being available in Korea and hoping to have it on our shores by the end of this year. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes posted on when it actually comes out here. So what do we got here? We got obviously new skills, new items, all that good stuff, but finally a level cap increase. It's been a long time coming for this game. Are you a TERA fan in general? Like, I remember you commenting on Twemos and things like that back when this was getting ready to come out and was still a subscription game at the time. You weren't generally a fan at that time. Has that changed at all over the last 2 years?
Hell no. I mean, I'm like you a little bit in that, when we started off, you're like, I guess people are still playing this. And, you look into it, and, yeah, a lot of people are still playing it, a pretty good amount. It definitely, it was the next big thing, action combat raw or whatever. And that was, it got the hype train going like every other MMO. And then it settled down a fair amount after people got into it. Didn't like it for one reason or another, moved on. But it still does have a pretty good, decent-sized core, enough to be I wouldn't call that a failure or a flop or anything like that. It's still chugging along, probably just like any other of a million other, especially like Korean import games that are hyped to the moon because they're pretty or whatever. They come over and they don't quite necessarily mix with the North American crowd. Certainly, those were some aspects of it that I didn't care for, but they still do pretty well in the long run. So it's not for me, but if you like it, knock yourself out.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the action combat at the time when it launched was the big selling point here, because we had seen action combat in things like Vindictus and titles like that, but we really hadn't seen it in a full-blown MMORPG, quest-based, dungeon-based, game like that. And so this was kind of like, oh man, that's going to be cool. I like the combat, and TERA for me is one of those games that I jump into every now and then. Usually coinciding with some type of content release, and I play it for a week or two, and I play it extensively in that week or two, and then I don't play for a couple of months. I guess my only beef with the game was the questing was normal. Run-of-the-mill questing, and it started to get grindy, and as all these games do. I mean, I'm saying that like it's exclusive to TERA.
I was about to say, didn't you stream Rift yesterday?
I did, and
I was going to sleep halfway through that.
Hey, I got to 61 last night on that one, by the way.
Don't you like Final Fantasy 14?
I do, but it was patching. So I'm the last person, as Jason so eloquently pointed out, to bitch about grind, right? Because I don't mind a quest grind. But in TERA, it just kind of got stale for me. The combat was cool, but once you got it under wraps, you weren't really in danger of dying to anything anymore. You knew the ins and the outs of your character. So for me, it's one of those jump in for a couple of weeks and play. But so I'm definitely jumping in when Fate of Varun, the expansion, comes out. Not only are we getting a level cap, which is long overdue in my opinion. This should have probably been done in an update. Being this long away from an expansion. We're also getting a new continent, Northern Arun, which will feature the homeland, the home city of the Barakan race, the Highwatch city. That's pretty exciting for me. I love that race, and so it's gonna be cool for me to kind of see their homeworld. You couldn't care less. I see you just nodding, right?
I vaguely remember there was a storyline in this game, but I tried my best to forget it.
The only thing I didn't like I do have an endgame character in TERA, and the only thing I really don't like is that they still just the server, the entire thing lags when there's certain events going on.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
One thing I did try. I mean, when I was at GDC a couple of years ago before it came out, I was there and I actually got in with them, and did a little end game thing with them, and it was kind of fun. The four of us was me, Ed Park from Game Breaker, Togrim, and then two of them from NMOs. I really did enjoy that. Then of course I get in the game, I grind up to like level 20 doing kill 10 rats quests for over and over, and I was like, well, eventually I might be able to do the fun stuff, but whatever.
I will say this for them: they have what I think personally, again, it's my own opinion, they have one of the better cash shop implementations. It's pretty much across the board, just cosmetic mounts, all those types of things that, hey, you're going to get versions of those in the game. If you want to get the fancy, nightmare this or whatever, go ahead. But you're going to get mounts in game. You're going to get them for currency. You're going to get different skins in game that you can use on weapons. So I really like that. Now there's a little bit of a for me with the elite status and how they tell you you're going to get a discount with these particular vendors, but it turns out it's not all the items that the vendors sell, so it was kind of meh on that one for me. But as far as like gauging it on a pay-to-win scale, this ranks up there with me for Rift, which I think has done a great job with their free-to-play cash shop as well. So I got to give them kudos there. Do you think we're going to see a new class, though?
No, probably not. I think that's sort of thing they would have mentioned in their, they have like the 5 bullet points of stuff that's going to be there. I would think that anything that major they would have revealed.
It was one of the shortest press releases I've ever seen for an expansion.
Was it even a press release, or did they just post on the forums? Did they actually? Oh no, they did have an actual article on their site.
Well, they had.
The forum thing was from their initial thing back in August or something, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so back in July, there was just a forum post referencing, hey, this is in Korea now, and we're going to try and bring it by the end of the year. And that was on the officials NMOS games forums. Then this past week, when the story broke and here's the title and here's a trailer and everything, that was an exclusive with PC Gamer. That they launched the information. And it was pretty much the same information that was in the forum post 5 months ago, except now we had a title and a trailer to go with it.
Yeah,
and we just got Reaper. Yeah. We just got the Reaper class in an update or two ago, which was kind of a nice little, hey, here's a new class and an update. That's pretty badass when games do that. You don't have to wait for an expansion. So I'm kind of with you. I'm doubtful that we're going to see a class added here.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, expansion can just be all about the new content, which people are, like you said, getting to level 65, having the new landmass, new dungeons, whatever. I mean, that's enough, I think, without absolutely having to have a new class to also toss in. Because when you make a new class, people are going to make those guys at level 1, and they're going to have to work their way up. So you might as well. It almost makes more sense to put that in some sort of other thing where you don't have the other content. So this way people can get in
PvP
and concentrate
experience
on high-level
too.
stuff right away. Yeah.
New PvP experience too. I'm not a PvP guy, but I did enjoy the PvP in TERA to a certain point. The one thing I did find annoying with it, but unfortunately, and they've done a lot of tweaking and stuff on this one, is the whole hitbox stuff with that mattering and characters being different sizes. Now they've tweaked a lot of that, so it's not nearly the issue it was at launch. But all in all, this is a good thing. I like TERA. I enjoy it, dabbling in it. The expansion looks to have a cool little story going on with it. I'm always a fan of level cap increases, and in games that I personally don't think have a pay-to-win cash shop, hey, more power to you. Awesome. I know I'm going to be checking it out. Sounds like you're going to be not.
I'm going to be checking out your live of it.
My bomb live when I jump in the expansion.
My looking at it.
Hey, that's the benefit of having max level characters in a bunch of these games, though, is that when an expansion comes out, we can check out the expansion without having to go back and level a character. So, yeah, I'll probably do a bomb live of it. You're probably right. I'm not going to show gameplay footage for this next topic.
Well, it's just random
because
stuff.
Not only that, I mean, it's kind of, we're going to theory craft a little bit here. But I think when you start a conversation talking about this is a really awful idea, nobody wants their gameplay footage shown on top of a conversation like that. So you're going to have to deal with our ugly mugs for topic 2 here, but I'll show you gameplay when we get to topic number 3. You wrote a piece this week called Awful Ideas, the Limited Time MMO. Now, I kind of like the idea of an awful ideas column, and you'd said, hey, maybe I got some more ideas that we could do this. So if viewers have an idea that they think this would be really cool, but it would make a terrible actual game or a terrible practice if you implemented it, go to Jason's article, The Awful Ideas, the Limited Time MMO, that was put up this week, and comment on YouTube or in the comments on this show. Because we'd love to take them and say, hey, that's a good idea. Let's rip it apart and expand it and write a piece on it. There's a lot of cool things I think you can do in MMOs that nobody's ever going to do for one reason or another. Tell me about your limited time MMO. Where did this come from?
Well, I think actually someone came up with a really good, I don't know exactly where the genesis of it sparked in my head, but I think someone had a pretty good mention of it in the comments that I sort of worked with afterwards to think of that's how it came from. Like, you have your typical MMO that is, need 20, 30 hours a week to get through it and get all the stuff and whatever. It just kind of consumes your life. And I thought,
like grinding in TERA.
Yeah, like grinding in TERA and then grinding out raid gear in WoW, whatever. And I thought, obviously people don't always have time for that. So what has kind of come out as sort of the alternative to that? Well, you have the other extreme. You have like your phone games or your Facebook games where it's, 10 minutes pressing some buttons and then that's all you do for the day and your crops grow or whatever. And I'm just like, could there be something maybe in between that? Something where I don't feel like I have to live another life or have a second job to play at this game and to get lots of cool stuff. But it's a little more strategy, a little more into it than, growing my crops for 5 minutes a day. And that's why I sort of came up with the notion was, what if there was an MMO where you really could only play like an hour a day or about 7 hours a week? So you don't feel like you have to do everything all the time. And maybe you play that and then you play some other games as well. So you can actually be claiming to play multiple games instead of just having to devote your life to one. Obviously, like I said, it's probably terrible because people aren't going to probably want to play something they don't. They want to have that 20 hours a week, even though they realize they don't necessarily have it in terms of having jobs or kids, whatever other responsibilities and so on. But the notion that you would be stopped after a certain point is going to be distasteful to a lot of people. But
and
on the other
obviously
hand,
to the company who wants you to play their game as long as possible.
But even the point I came with that is how many times now you see a new MMO or shooter or whatever, you look at it and you think, wow, this looks awesome. I mean, take any sandbox. Take something like Archage, for instance. If you saw that, you might have thought, wow, that looks great. It looks like a lot of fun. But man, it's going to take me forever to get to max level, to get my ship made up, to do this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't I rather have something that I know I don't have to, like I said, live another life, get a second job to do? Would there be almost some slight benefit in marketing your game along that lines? Because again, that's what the phone games do. The phone games say, hey, you just click buttons for 10 minutes, you play a game, so to speak. Obviously, that appeals to a lot of people. But now is there this kind of middle ground between the super casuals and the super hardcores that almost makes this sort of kind of viable? But, and I want to stress this because some people thought it was what I was getting at in in the article, was that I wanted the phone game mechanics of you only play for a little while and then it takes 6 hours for your house to build, but you can make it go faster by paying money. And my band, no, I don't want any kind of paid advantage, just like I wouldn't want in a hardcore MMO necessarily, discounting what you think of a cash shop or whatever. I don't want it to be, it's 7 hours, but if you pay money, you'll get to play for 10 and get to have more advantage. No, I just 7 straight up per week, and that's it. And again, the other point is that it actually takes real life time, the same amount of time to do stuff. It would take you like 3 months of your typical MMO playing, grinding 30 hours a week to get all the raid gear. It would take you 3 months in this game, but only playing 7 hours a week to gain the same thing. So,
I see where you're going. I see where you're going. Would never ever work. It's an awful idea, and that's why the article is titled "Awful Ideas."
Now here's my one.
I mean, we had talked about offline afterwards. As when I read the initial run through of the article, I said, "Hey, World of Warcraft actually did something similar to this, or at least incentivized logging off back in beta, right? I mean, they had there was no rested XP. It was after you played for a certain period of time in World of Warcraft beta, your experience gain was halved." You only got 50% of the experience if you continued playing, and the incentive was to get you to log off of the game for a little while and recharge and come on back the next day or whatever, and you would have the full experience. Players freaking hated it. They went ballistic. And so what did Blizzard do? Well, they just turned the math around, right? And they put in rested XP. So now you always gain 100% XP, but if you log out and you get rested when you come in, you're gaining 200% XP for a certain period of time. It's the same damn thing. It's the same exact system. They just
feels like you're being rewarded rather than punished.
Now you're being rewarded for logging off rather than punished for staying on for long periods of time. So this type of mechanic, at least to limit play, has already been used, and your article pointed out, obviously, the gating that grinding for raid gear and raid lockouts kind of builds this time mechanic in, but it's in a much more grindy sort of way, right? We're only going to let you do it once a week and then come on back next week. I like the idea, in theory. It's one of those things I would never, ever want to see put into practice, though. Ever.
Someone else in the comments raised good points. They said this is what leagues are like in Path of Exile. And that it's kind of a limited time playing thing where everyone starts with nothing and you kind of go through for your amount of time and get your stuff. You could say that Arena in Hearthstone is kind of the same way, too. Where you do start from nothing and you just build with your limited stuff for a brief period of time. So, I mean, I wonder if that's the way to implement something like this, to have more stuff like leagues in Path of Exile, to find a way to implement that in your game so that people who don't have 50 hours a week to do it can still play and still have a good time. I mean, I play Arena mostly in Hearthstone. I've never put money into it, and I sometimes I play the regular, the ranked games, and once I get up to like a certain level, I'm getting my butt kicked by people who are whipping out one legendary after another. And it's depressing. And I know I'm never going to be, rank 5 or rank 1 or anything like that. but I can still go in an arena and enjoy myself and be on equal footing with everybody there all the time. So maybe that's kind of a way to do it, to have some sort of like sealed deck play. If you think of the old CCG days, that's kind of what it is. It's like sealed deck play in MMOs. You have something like that where everyone starts from nothing, has a limited time to do their thing.
So then let me ask this, because this is kind of where I come from. I mean, I can appreciate that the idea is interesting, right? And it keeps everybody on. But to me, I'm just like, you know what? If it's not a fair playing field, fine. If I've got 20 hours over the course of 3 days to play and you only have 8, okay, fine. I'm going to progress faster than you, and I'm okay with that.
Sure. Well, again, you're okay with that. But then that guy who has 50 hours instead of your 20, he progresses faster than you. Which again, you might be okay with.
And I'm okay with that too.
Again,
I got a wife and 3 kids. I got shit I gotta go do. I can't sit there and, as much as I would like to, right? Because I enjoy gaming. To me, that's okay. I don't have a problem with. I definitely see the point of, man, I wish I could do this other stuff because, but I don't have the time to do X, Y, and Z to go in and get there. But to me, if you're making your game that it's to the point where I can't even experience something unless I'm putting that 50+ hours in a week, then you've designed your game wrong. In my estimation. It has nothing to do with my amount of time to play. I don't think the playing field should be equal. If the playing field is equal across the board, then what the hell is the point of playing, particularly when there's competitive aspects to a lot of this stuff?
But the question is, though, that's the question, is what does that extra time give you? Does it actually mean you're more skilled, or just that you have more free time?
In most cases, it's going to be more free time. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at the people that go for world firsts and things, there's obviously a lot of skill that they have that you or I or some of the listeners don't have. But they also have a preponderance of time to garner that skill and all the equipment necessary. In general, though, I think you're right. It's not a skill measurement. It's simply a time measurement.
Yeah. So
I don't know. This one, I can see where it's going. I don't like the idea and would never play anything like that.
Here's my one little extra question on it, though.
Okay.
Suppose that this was law. U.S., every country in the world passes the law. It says you can only play each MMO for 7 hours a week or penalty of death or whatever. Do you think you would still play MMOs? Would you be okay? Right now, if you play 20 hours a week, would you be happy instead playing 3 games for 7 hours a week?
No.
You think you'd still enjoy it? You wouldn't enjoy it.
No.
You have to have that unlimited time.
No,
okay.
I wouldn't. And it's not even time. I recently did a first look for Fear Online. Okay. And as far as the PvE aspect of that game, you get 3 operation passes, and so you can do 3 missions, and then those passes take 8 hours to recharge. You can't do another one. And to your other point, it's a terrible implementation because you can buy passes.
Yeah.
But if you could not buy those passes, they weren't in the cash shop, then that game is doing essentially exactly what you've created here. 3 missions. When you're done, you're done. We'll see you in at least 8 hours. Come on back. And to me, that immediately tells me, at least in my gaming, shut this off.
But my point is, the reason you think that way is because you have other options. If you want to play something else for 20 hours, you can. My very hypothetical point is here: if there was nothing else,
then no, I would not be as into online gaming the way I am.
Okay.
I'd go play my PS4 and play some Assassin's Creed or something.
Well, again, that's another option. You only play Assassin's Creed for 7 hours too. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's why it's so crazy. It's like one of the reasons that this is bad is because we have other options to not do this.
True.
So that's got to be the point of it. But
well, if you guys have an awful idea for the MMO space, a system, a game, a mechanic, a tweak, something that you think, man, this would make things better or, would be cool, but it will never, ever be implemented, throw it in the comments below for this show or throw it in the awful ideas article Jason put up last week. We'll take a look at them. I know Jason's got a couple more cooking, and so we'll see them over the next few weeks. Speaking of bad stuff going on, we're about to segue into a whole discussion here. Star Trek Online, and I'm going to show game footage. Yes, it's a first look. Yes, it's from years ago. It's the way we've always done this show. Sorry. That didn't change when I came back. It's still first looks from a while ago. But so Star Trek Online this past week discovered an exploit that resulted in players leveling at, get this, Jason, you're a Star Trek Online guy, or were for a period of time.
A little bit, yeah.
17 times the normal rate. not a little faster than usual, 17 times faster than normal.
That's even faster than what BioWare offered you for Old Republic.
Right.
It's 12 times.
I only got 12 times for shelling out for an expansion and resubbing to Star Wars, for crying out loud. The exploit was limited to a few maps, and the team at Cryptic was able to backtrack the data pretty quickly to see who accidentally exploited the game and those who beat the hell out of the exploit. And so what they did after looking at all the data, Stephen D'Angelo and team, they drew the line at 10 specialization points. If you got 10 spec points, they let you go. Or if you got less than that, they just left you alone. If you got any more than that, they took the excess points away. So if you gained 50, they chopped that down and they took 40 of them away and gave you the 10. The total impact was to the tune of about 300 characters across 250 accounts. So hopefully, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about very small numbers as far as the entire player base. If that's a big number as far as the entire player base, then Star Trek Online is probably in a little bit of trouble.
He said there were hundreds of thousands of characters. So
yeah, so 300 characters out of 250 accounts total, not a big hit. Here's my question though, and I've always kind of been intrigued by this idea. First off, let's define an exploit, because normally these companies don't give details. They just say, we found an exploit, we fixed it, we punished some people, move on, right? Stephen D'Angelo kind of got into it, didn't he? I mean, this was a pretty lengthy post.
Yeah. I mean, he really talked about it. I mean, of course, how to do it is probably available on Reddit and other unofficial forums and whatnot. So it's not that they need to repeat that. So I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he really, went in like 7 or 8 paragraphs here. And of course, I mean, it makes sense to when you do this, you want to be able to very clearly delineate what happened. And you're talking about getting rid of people's progress or whatever. Sometimes you ban accounts or whatever. You want to be really careful and say exactly what you mean, exactly what happened. So I think this is great that they actually went to this length to explain it this well to people.
Yeah, and so I'm going to give you the definition Stephen D'Angelo put out there, and you tell me if you agree. First off, what an exploit is, because my next question is going to be, should they be fair game? This raises the question, this is directly from Stephen D'Angelo's post. This raises the question of what an exploit is. I'll loosely define an exploit as any unintended behavior in-game that a player can use to gain significant advantage over others. How does a player know something is unintended? That's definitely open to interpretation and was a huge focus of the discussion in the dev team. In this case, we feel that the difference in leveling speed between playing other content in the game and playing the content that was singled out this week was so large that it is reasonable for players to think this is too good to be something the dev team intended to happen. We find exploits regularly, but it's uncommon to find one that was used to achieve enough of an advantage to require taking action. Fair enough definition. I think we can both agree there. Unintended consequences.
So. I mean, you're never going to be able to precisely define it.
No.
16 times experience, that would have been fine, but you got 17 times, so that's in our code of conduct somewhere. That it's no, you can't. You have to make a judgment call.
Yeah, there's always the exploit versus clever use of game mechanics discussion, right? All right, so here's my next question that I've always found this interesting, and I'd like to get your take on it. Should exploits be fair game? I mean, if it happens, okay, it was a mistake. Somebody caught it. They took a little bit of advantage of the system for a while. And I should, okay, we fixed it. Nobody else can anymore. But I should put a dividing line on this, because we saw with Neverwinter, when that launched, huge exploits that were financially impacting with the whole Astral Diamond stuff. So let's take that out of the equation. As long as it is not financially impacting. If it's something like this, which it was a leveling exploit, an experience gain exploit, should those be fair game?
The point you kind of put in there is the for a while part of it. It's like if someone did one of these missions or whatever, or 2 of them and got 17 times, that's okay. That's what he talks about with the whole 10 point thing. You might stumble across it accidentally. I didn't look into exactly how this was done, if it was something there was no chance you do accidentally or whatever. But it's possible that you can just find some crazy thing that gives you some huge advantage, and probably you talk about it on your forums and your guild or whatever, and therefore it spreads to other people and they start doing it a little bit. But there's probably got to be a limit on just how much you can do this. Even I know it requires a little bit of thought from the players on what you did and what how big of a deal it is. And I think
I don't know. I can't say that I would not have used it.
I can't say that.
I mean, if I'm walking by and I'm like, oh shit, I turned in that quest and I got 2 million experience. The rest of these are 50K. I can repeat that quest, or I can repeat the whatever I was doing. I can't say that, because to me it's like, yes, the numbers may have been bigger, but there's so many Easter eggs and bullshit and little hidey things in these games anyway that, hey, it's probably unintended. It's probably unintended, and they'll probably nerf it or fix it at some point, but I can't say I wouldn't have used it.
I agree with doing it once, seeing I get the 2 million XP. Maybe doing it one more time just to make sure that wasn't some sort of fluke. After that, I might hold back on it, because again, I'm going to recognize that they're going to figure this out probably. So like you said, they didn't ban anybody. I don't think they just scale back your points.
Yeah, they just took spec points away.
So if you spend 6 hours doing this and getting those 50 points, you're going to lose most of it anyway. It's going to happen.
There's a part of me, though, Jason, that wants to say, you know what? Exploits that have no financial impact should be fair game.
So you're saying you're just saying that the company shouldn't touch it at all.
Oh no! I'm saying they should fix the exploit if it was not unintended consequence.
You're just saying not roll back your progress.
But hey, you got lucky. You found a mistake. We got it fixed. I mean, ultimately, these are games that we're talking about.
Yeah, but then you talk about how many people maybe it wasn't the case. I thought the Neverwinter one also just messed with the in-game economy.
It totally foobarred the economy.
Yeah, so that's even if you're not talking about when you say financially impact, you're talking about.
But the game's economy is tied to Astral Diamonds.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, what if there was something? I don't know exactly how Star Trek Online one worked, but what if there's something that gave you 1 million credits per thing? So now blow up the auction house or whatever. Which I'm assuming that has nothing to do with real money. There's no exchange or anything like that. You still let that go, because I can understand it in the case of when it doesn't affect anybody. Like if I get my character to level 50 in 3 hours because of an exploit, I did that. Okay, it doesn't affect anybody really. If I farm up 50 million gold or whatever and use that to completely screw up the auction house, now does that mess with other people enough?
Yeah, I know. That's why I said there's a part of me.
Great stuff, and now I trash everybody in PvP.
There's a part of me that wants to say exploits should be fair game. However, when it comes down to it, I agree with everything that was pretty much said in this post. As much as I want to play devil's advocate, and as much as I did while we were discussing this, and how I would be, hey, they should be fair game, at the end of the day, I got to agree with, I don't want any of these companies trying to decide where a dividing line on an exploit we're going to let go and an exploit we're going to enforce is. And so I agree with, we just enforce all exploits.
And how much of it is even a PR issue? If you let this go, does that make other people think that they don't care, they don't mind if people are cheating, or because that's how people are going to see it? Not an exploit, it's a cheat.
Ultimately,
the company doesn't mind. They don't punish cheaters. Screw these guys. Blah,
ultimately,
blah,
I agree with you on every single point. They got to do the right things here, but
probably
there's still that part of me that's like a dirty, low-down MMO player that's like, you know what, I got over, and it's bullshit that you're taking my points away. It's your program. I don't know.
it'd be even worse if you only got to play 7 hours.
So what happened? Right. What happened with Riot this week, speaking of exploits?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that wasn't even an exploit. It was more of a hack. And we're just talking about it more from like a punishment standpoint even. Like, the amount that they did, let's see, what is it saying here? They had a thing where you could install a little hack that could let you use your ultimates at level 1.
Oh, nice.
So, again, there was a case of them, it says, regarding the exploit, they call it an exploit, but I thought that they said a third-party program was involved. Regarding the exploit itself, we patched out a server-side fix this morning, and based on initial monitoring, the issue is resolved. And that's another case where what you're doing is screwing with other people, because you're going to mess with their ranking or their gain and whatever. So that's the sort of thing that you do kind of have to fix.
You got to fix them all.
And then of course there was something else we'll get to later today in my A-bomb. So just all sorts of exploiting going on.
Well, there's the segue. Let's go over to the bombs. All right, I'm going to go first today. I let you go first the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
I'll give it back to you next week. I just realized I didn't spell rollback correctly.
Nobody else has to see it.
Rollback. So my bomb this week is an A bomb. Ugh. I did a bomb live stream yesterday, Monday. We record this show Tuesday, and it goes up Thursdays. So Monday I did Rift, Nightmare Tide. They had to, speaking of exploits and bad things happening, this wasn't an exploit.
Just a bad week all around.
Right. Rift had to do a rollback for a few shards due to a hardware outage this past week. It affected 3 shards. 2 of them were relatively unscathed. There was a rollback of, an hour, something like that. Very small increment of time based on an outage, and they went to a restore copy. Fabelite was the shard that was impacted the most. It had an over 25-hour rollback. People I know that were playing Rift that were 62, 63 were rolled all the way back to 61. It happened during a bad time. It was going into the weekend, too. So A-bomb to Rift, having to roll back my shard for over 25 hours. Luckily, I had not personally been in the expansion yet. Yesterday was my first day in it. But that kind of sucks. Raid set up for the win. Mr. Winter.
Well, my A-bomb goes to Blizzard for how they are handling botters in Hearthstone. And this just came up over the weekend, or I guess like yesterday, that they found a bunch of bots in Hearthstone. And they said, all right, we're going to really hit them hard this time, because they'd put out a warning back in August, said, we accounts that are found to be making use of bots are subject to penalties up to and including permanent suspension. So they finally laid the hammer down this month, or this week, and they said, all right, we're going to ban all of you botting accounts for 3 months. Then you can come back with all the stuff you gained, and everything is fine. But if you do it again, then we're really going to ban you. This time we promise. So, and yeah, even the botters themselves on some of their forums are like, yeah, whatever. It says, I'll see you on the ladder 3 months in time with all my gold heroes and gold cards, all max free, tons of gold. But so,
yeah,
kind of ineffective, especially after you've already given them a warning.
You know what happens in 3 months, right? Getting ready to go into the first quarter. You can't afford to lose that revenue, baby.
Yeah, that's been one of the more cynical thoughts on it as well. So,
all right, viewer bombs and questions. Make sure you guys put your weekly bombs in the comments below. If we don't have weekly bombs from you, we got no show. It's all about you guys. So tell us what you like, what you don't like in the world of free-to-play gaming. This week, Robert Grierson says housing in last week. Robert kind of gave everything here in one post. So the question of the week last week as well was, how important is housing in an MMO to you? Should free-to-play players have the same access to housing as subscription players? Robert says housing in free-to-play games should be available to all. Not many will use it, and those that do will spend on it. If they sold special decorations for them, keeping the bulk free, they would probably make more money. A small A-bomb to Rift for their new expansion, doing the new quests and get a quest reward that I can't use, or because I need to be attuned, and the only way to get attuned is to pay real money or grind out 100,000 of the new stones, which are limited to $35,000 a week, talking about the Void Stone system. Sounds all right until you realize that any new player will not be able to manage the content without grinding the 60 content for a while getting the gear to move on. They've done the same thing with the earring slots.
wow.
Robert also gives a dub-bomb, something good to Path of Exile for continuing to patch stuff into the game that keeps you playing, including new skills, unique items, and the new race season.
Yeah. Something was good.
Terra Nova's all you.
All right, Terranova667 says, I'm going to give an A-bomb this week to the firing of the head guys on the WildStar team. I know it's not a free-to-play game, etc., so maybe shouldn't be in the free-to-play cast. But it's not great to see guys lose their jobs simply because it wasn't going exactly to plan. There were other avenues they could have tried first before going down that route. Oh, you and I have talked about WildStar a little bit offline.
Yeah, and on this show 2 weeks ago, when we speculated, is free-to-play the answer? Yes, it's a subscription-based game. Yes, we talked about it on the free-to-play cast, but we were looking at, is that the answer? This was weird. I mean, you and I have been covering this stuff for years now. This happens, right? The whole development layoff cycle. And whether we agree that that should or not doesn't matter. We know it does. This one was weird, though, right? I mean, this was 60 people out of a couple hundred. at Carbine
Including,
Studios.
as mentioned, some pretty high up people.
Some pretty heavy hitters. You're talking about senior world design, senior systems engineers, senior battle art design, and dungeons and raids. I mean, there was some big names on this. It was kind of like to me, it read of a vote of no confidence from NCSoft type deal, more than okay, the game is out, we need to lay off the excess. This was pretty high up, and it was hard. It was hard to fire anybody higher than that, right? Because they all left.
This is like a football team
left,
firing their coach in
Stephen
mid-season.
Frost left, and it was very weird. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with WildStar over the next couple of months. Penline says, how important is a good just asking a general question to us, which you're always encouraged to do. Doesn't even have to be game related. I don't care. You want to talk about my dog? We can. Penline, how important is good Party Finder app to a game? This is my favorite feature in my current game, Aura Kingdom. A friend of mine decided to try the game because of this feature. I'm a casual player with his with a catch as catch can play schedule. Not sure what that means. 95% of my playing time has been solo, but now I've had sessions in which over 75% of my playing time has been in group play. I would absolutely agree.
Yeah,
especially in the way modern MMOs are built, that if you don't launch with a Party Finder, you did it wrong.
Pretty much, yeah, because people just don't talk anymore. You can lament why that is or what the reason is, but that's just how it is. Because a lot of games are free to play too. Everyone just tries something whenever they feel like it. They go in solo, and they don't necessarily go in with their guild, trying to find the next thing or whatever. A lot of people just go in solo. We're all a little antisocial to some extent. Let's admit it.
And we have ADD. I mean,
so being able to click on buttons to
the
find
new shiny is out.
That's what you do in Facebook. You click on buttons to find people. You don't actually interact with them. So it's the same thing in a group find. So.
I will be honest though that generally I think about 70 to 80% of my MMO playing is solo.
Oh, just at least that.
Throw Netflix on. I do a lot of raiding, a lot of PvE raiding. So I'm not going to go as higher than that, probably 80%, and so I have to do my fair amount of dungeons with guilds and stuff like that to gear up. But I throw Netflix or something on and put the headsets on and go grind some quests. Like I said last week, our question was, how important is housing to you in an MMO? Should free-to-play players have the same access to housing as subscribing players if there's a difference in the access level? And Jason, what do some of our viewers think?
Well, Fresh Undead, great name for this being just about Halloween. Fresh Undead says, housing to me is boring, but I love to craft, so I will do housing for that reason. And definitely think there needs to be free and an A-bomb to Neverwinter. Just randomly, we're just messing around our questions of the week and our bombs just all over the place.
Hey, everybody's welcome to comment on it all. If we need to jam it all together into one segment from now on, we will.
He said, I've played the heck out of that game. Have 2 capped characters, but the boxes and race locks for money have made me stop playing. Every time they do a new thing, they lock 75% of it behind founder packs. You had less than positive things to say about the Perfect World in general cash shops. So.
Yeah, when I did
lock boxes, we all love those.
Right? I did Neverwinter Bomb Live 2 or 3 weeks ago, and yeah, it was... I've got my issues with Perfect World Entertainment. Biograve says, housing has never been my... It's like everything's a Halloween thing.
Undead.
Right? Housing has never been my thing, but I always think content itself should be available. I understand having to pay for expansions, but limiting content like you can't do endgame or anything or related things always annoyed me. I want to enjoy the content because there's so many other things you can have players pay for that limiting content itself seems silly. That's a great, well thought out response.
I get the notion that because housing is just this fluff thing, it's like having pretty hats or whatever. I get that you want to make that a pay thing and keep the real gameplay free, but like I said last week, if this is something that you want people to spend money on, let them at least see a little bit of it. Maybe they can only get a really crappy wooden chair in the corner for their decorations, and the real chair is on the cash shop. But at least let them try it out a little bit.
Would you like to /sit? Visit the cash shop.
There you go. /sit in style.
Last one. Go ahead.
It's from Hicks64, who does not have a Halloween-themed name. Shame on you, Hicks. There were a few volume jumps. Again, commenting on our... Do we have to comment on the sound?
Yeah, well, Hicks was the one that I was talking to about it.
He was the one who complained about it originally, and she said.
Yeah, and I said, hey, okay, perfect. Thanks for. I didn't hear it, so thanks for Hicks. Let me know if it's any better.
All right, he was complaining about the volume. I'll move on to the actual question. I do enjoy player housing in general. If done correctly, it adds to your own attachment to the game world, can tell a narrative of your character's journey, like hanging skulls or displaying armor and weapons, and a social element with randoms or friends, all of which could lead to potential customers sticking with and purchasing things within a free-to-play MMO. Interesting, he mentions there. I mean, he talks about social element with randoms or with friends, but like I said before, your housing is usually like off in this district somewhere. It's like completely off the beaten path, so you don't get a chance to really show it off to people as much. Maybe what they should do is instead of having it should be like your own little pocket dimension, and you open a portal to it, like just in the middle of town, and like that stays open for like 2 minutes, so anyone can go there and jump into your portal, look at your house, steal your stuff, yes, slash sit in your comfortable chairs. Something to make it a little more available for people to see, because you're generally just not going to look at random people's houses, I think.
Question of the week. When you play MMOs, I've already given you my answer. Are you predominantly a solo player, only grouping when you absolutely have to? Or do you play in a group most of the time, even when questing? I've got a couple friends that do that. They won't play. That's never worked for me. You know, it's like I have friends who are like, we'll never play this game while we're leveling without the other one. No, that never works.
Because you can never find the time to play together.
I always end up like 15 levels ahead or 30 levels behind because neither one of us waits for the other one. If you only could play 7 hours a week, that wouldn't happen. That's another reason for it. There we go. Great idea. There it is. Mr. Winter, where can everybody follow you, sir?
Follow me on the Twitter at WinterInformal. Follow me streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter and occasionally blogging jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
Fantastic stuff. I'm Magic Man. You can follow me at magicman1, MAGICKMANN1. Make sure you put your comments, dub bombs, questions, and everything below. See you next week. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.
Bye.